I'm Becky Meagher, and welcome to Transitions Body, Mind, Spirit. Transitions, we all have so many transitions in our life. And I like to use the metaphor of triathlons, something that, I've done 3 this summer so far. And I'd like to say that in a triathlon, first you swim, and then you get in a transition area, and then you bike, and then you change again, and then you run. And what a great metaphor. We change so many things in our lives, and we're taught many things in our lives, from children to adults. And talk about swimming. I want to tell you, the guests that we have here are people that know how to teach to swim, but really how to save the life of a child. And it's more complicated than you might think, and it is life-saving. And today we have, first I'll introduce Brendan Sweetman. Brendan, welcome.
Welcome, thank you.
And we have his videographer. And say your whole name for me.
Jamie Yanuszewski.
Yes, Jamie. And then Brendan's wife, Wendy Sweetman. And we're here to find out, tell us a little bit about your swim program, your teaching program to teach children how to save their lives.
Okay, well, we run a program at our house, and we have a facility that we use in the wintertime, and we do maintenance. So we normally teach for 10 or 11 weeks out of the summer, teaching anywhere from babies as soon as you can sit up to
babies,
2-year-olds, 4-year-olds, all the way to adults. But the majority of the students that come to us would probably be 10 and under, with a predominance towards probably a year to 6 or 7.
1-year-old, they can't even walk.
Even 8 months old. No, they can't walk. It's the very first thing that they will ever do in their life. We could call it their first sport, but then in calling something a sport, in our concept of what a sport is, it would kind of indicate that there's a choice involved with a sport. If a child doesn't want to play a certain sport, they don't have to do it. This is necessity. This is a total necessity to teach children what we do. And the reason we do it is because it is the #1 leading cause of death for children 4 and under, and at certain times with statistics, it's been 5 and under. We have to think of what it says in Freakonomics, that if you have a gun on a desk and you have a swimming pool, your child is more likely to drown in the pool than shoot themselves with that loaded gun sitting on their desk, which they will walk past a lot more than they will walk past their swimming pool. So it brings on a nature of seriousness of it brings on a nature of seriousness that we have got to do what we can to help these children to save their life. And you know, we have concepts that we use that we have developed over many years, starting with my mother, Mrs. Carolyn Sweetman, all the way from New Zealand. We call her Chico. That's what her family called her when she was young. So anyway, it's a serious job, and if you want to ask some more specific questions about it, I'll be free to answer.
All right. Well, as I understand it, people can bring their children. They don't even have to walk, and oftentimes the children don't understand and are not happy, and they're going to do it anyway. And so Jamie here is a mom and doing a documentary on this whole process with her husband. And you brought your kids, and what can you tell us when you brought your kids, and how old were they? What was the experience like? And you, as a mother, seeing this, what was it like?
I feel like it's important to say why I was led to find them to begin with is when my daughter was just a little bit under the age of 2, a really close friend of mine lost her son to drowning in their residential pool. So I said I would never get a house with a pool, and then 6 months later bought a house with a pool. And so was really anxious to find a way to teach my daughter how to save her life. And so I was standing around at where I worked and was asking a group of nurses, what do I do? Where do I send them? And where do I send her? And they said, the only person is Carolyn Sweetman. And I went over to my computer and I looked her up and I signed my daughter up right then. And then when I got there, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't, really look anything up. I just trusted these nurses. And so I showed up, and you just hand your child to her, and then you go stand behind a fence. And I was like, oh, what am I? I was nervous and I was scared. And I think Miss Carolyn has told me many times she didn't know if I would make it through that week. But I would go home at night, and my husband was out of town, and I would just be like, what have I done? And
how old was your child?
She was just barely 2.
Wow.
And she would cry on the way, but then at the end she was so proud of herself. And she'd be like, I did it, I rolled over. And I remember the first time I ever saw my child roll over, I just started bawling. And then that Thursday, they floated on their backs for 45 minutes. And I'm like, no 2-year-old does anything for 5 minutes, let alone 45 minutes. And here's my 2-year-old. And I sobbed again. And then on Friday, she got to go down for rings and got to go off the diving board. And she was so proud of herself. And I was like, I went from feeling like what have I done, to I'm the best mom in the world. And so that was what led me to that. And then that year, Miss Carolyn started to back off, and so of teaching full time, and so she sent me to Brendan. And so my daughter has been in these programs for 5 years because she continues to learn through the entire program. I want my children to graduate from the program. And then my son came along, and I had him in at 9 months.
9 months.
Yeah.
9 months. That's
Screamed
a
and
infant.
cried and screamed and cried, but he was safe, and I had full trust. And he was crying because he didn't want to be there, and because he had to lay on his back, and he didn't want to lay on his back. And then the next year, he was 1. Still was cried and cried and cried. They called him Greasy Little Bowling Ball.
Greasy Bowling Ball. Yeah. That's a name for a kid.
Yeah, and it was mostly because I was silly and put sunscreen on him, and then he was just a chunker, and so that. But then this year, he was still 2, and just is incredible. It's unbelievable. He was able to rest on his back last year. But this year, he's just like a little fish. And I know my kids can save their lives. They are safe in the water. They're learning how to do strokes and swim the right way. And they're confident. And it's incredible. It changed our lives. Taught us a lot about parenting.
Wow. And I understand that oftentimes parents are just so upset they can't really stand to see their child cry, but like Brendan, you had talked about you're not going to let your child play in the traffic, right? And they're going to cry, hey, I want to just play in the traffic. But if you can show them how they can save their lives, then it's totally worth it, totally worth it. Mm-hmm. So Wendy, you are there talking with the parents that are bringing in these little children, and you are right on the front row there, talking to them, saying what to expect. Tell us about what that experience is.
Oh, it can get intense. But it's mostly moms that initially bring their kids because they're usually the ones that are available. Mm-hmm. So I think it helps them to connect with another mother, from that level. And also just knowing that they are in the right place doing the right thing. Because it can be hard to hear your child cry. I mean, nobody wants to hear their child cry. But knowing that they've actually chosen what's best for them in the long run. So being able to help them see the bigger picture about the program is a real special thing to try to get across. And so when we have these parent meetings on Mondays where we sit and we talk with all the parents, not just the new parents, but returning parents.
Is that every Monday? Or?
That's every Monday because we start our lessons new each Monday. We start a new session, so they go Monday to Friday. So on Monday it's parent meeting day, and it's known in advance that you have to attend that parent meeting. You won't be watching your child at that point on Monday. You'll be in a parent meeting for the majority of the class that your child is, you know, in the pool. But we like to have the returning parents, even if it's their second or third week in the summer and they've been to us, because there's new parents that are coming in, and these old parents that have been there, it's like peer support. It's a peer support.
Okay.
And so these veteran parents that have been in the program, like Jamie, can talk to these, you know, newbie parents and explain, you know, help explain why it's so important to do what you're doing, you know, and they can share their stories, and it gets really personal. It can get really intense, especially if you've had a parent come in with a child that's had a previous drowning experience.
You mean they drowned, but they survived?
Right.
Wow.
Brought
Yeah.
back to life.
Brought back to life.
Yeah.
And now the parents are going, okay, I guess I better do something.
Right.
We don't want this to
Right.
happen again.
Yeah, so it's really important, you know, and so I like to try to be, I mean, Brendan's in the meeting as well, but I'm kind of the contact person for them, you know, because he's in the pool usually, and so if they need something, if they have anything that they need, or even just to check in, you know, how's my kid doing, you know, I hear that a lot, you know. I have you know, parents that will email me, and you know, so I'm kind of their point of contact. I did teach, and I have taught, and actually Miss Carolyn trained me,
Which is his mama.
which is Brendan's mom. And while I was pregnant with our son Dungy, I was in Miss Carolyn's pool teaching that summer. So yeah, it's a great thing. It's amazing what their family's doing, and to be able to be a part of that is just a gift.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And then I was seeing a TV show on this skier, Bodie, I guess, who tragically, his 19-month-old daughter jumped in a pool, and they were saying it just takes 30 seconds
Yeah.
for a child to drown, and it's a quiet thing.
It is.
And it's such a tragic thing. And it is just so important for the children to learn to save themselves. One of the big things that you told me about is just because the kids are used to having water wings, that doesn't mean they know how to swim, right? That doesn't, if they have the idea they have their little water wings, and then the mom looks the other way, they don't have their water wings, they go, oh, just go in the pool, boom, right?
Yeah, it creates a false sense of security
Right.
in the child. But I will even say this, that there is no child, every child that wears those, none of them know how to swim, or they wouldn't be in those things. But it's a false sense of security. It's like a child when they first learn how to walk. If a child learned how to walk on his first day, normally a parent would be extremely happy. But what happens if as soon as the child started walking, you duct taped his legs together, we couldn't walk? Well, that's what's happening when we're putting these devices on. It's stopping the child from having a direct experience and a natural affinity to the medium, which is the water. And when they get to that point where they can just be natural with the water, it's like, oh yes, that element on the stove is hot, I will not touch that. Instead of being kept away from the water and kept up in the water like this, we say that it gives children magical powers. It gives them like superhero powers, and a young child does not conceptualize when they have it on or when they don't. They're in children are in the moment, and a lot of times when parents will let a child go to the bathroom, and they'll turn their back for a second, it doesn't take that long. I would beg to differ. I think it takes longer than 30 seconds. But if a child goes straight in and starts drinking water, in 30 seconds they could possibly be on the bottom of the pool. And we have seen that a lot at public pools. You know, and as they say, most children drown when their parents are right around them, because everybody is comfortable. They have let their guard down because they think this collective is enough to keep my child buoyant or to keep him safe, and it is not. Yeah.
And just the idea of, oh, somebody's watching them. I'm right here, you know. But maybe you're on the cell phone, and it just it's so easy for that to happen.
That's
And
why you know, with the universe, there's structure in its creation. There has to be structure with parents with their children. It's so important, structure with children with their parents with their children around the water. They've got to mind well, because it is a loaded gun if not treated right. And most parents will be oblivious to their children when they're at the pool. Hence the reason it's the #1 leading cause of death for children 4 and under.
wow.
So that the statistics stand for themselves. We are just the middleman doing God's work, and the right people that know about us and that truly trust in their heart about what we're doing, those are the ones that come to us. And we consider them amazing, amazing parents. To be able to not only trust us through reputation, but trust us to get their kids to a deeper level of understanding, not only to do with the water, but an understanding of themselves about being able to let go. Because in order to rest, you have to let go. This goes mind, body, spirit. This is a transitional thing.
And the idea of you saying that your child for 45 minutes was floating, that's just amazing. And so in the real world, if somehow or other a child slips in a pool and nobody's around, they know just to be on their back.
I've seen my kids get scared or panicked, and just from for whatever reason, and I've watched them go straight to their back. So I've seen my son fall in trying to fill a toy up with water, and I've watched him fall in, and he rolls right onto his back. It's like he doesn't expect to fall in the water, but when he does, he knows what to do, and that's what this program does. And I truly believe it saved my children's lives.
Wow, wow, that's amazing. That is wonderful. And speaking of children, we're going to be talking to 2 of your children about their experiences. This is the 3rd generation growing up with being taught how to rescue themselves, and also now they are helping, even though they're young, teaching. So we're going to try that segment also. Cut. Now we have Wendy Sweetman here with her and Brendan's 2 wonderful children, and we want to get a children's view too of what it's like to grow up learning to swim with this very program, and also how what they're doing with their lives swimming and also teaching. So Wendy, introduce your beautiful children here.
Thank you, Becky. Okay, this is Maya,
Yes.
and Maya is 11, and this is Rangi, and he is 14. Actually, Maya will be 11 next week, and he turned 14 a few days ago. So, yeah, September birthday babies.
All right. All right. Wow. Well, tell us about your swimming today, and do you even remember being a baby being in the pool?
I do, because I tried to soak up as much information as possible, and that's probably one of the reasons why I'm good at swimming these days, or better than some people, because, you know, I got really good instruction from my dad and my grandmother, and it really helped me progress and be able to become the swimmer that I am today. So.
Okay, and are you finding that you're helping teach kids also in the pool, doing some things too, because you're around it?
Yeah, I'm teaching sometimes. I'm teaching in the summer, and I'm teaching some in maintenance, and I'm learning the skills of the trade, and I'm learning how to just handle kids and talk with them and stay calm with them and teach them how to swim. So.
Is it a fun thing to work with those kids?
It is, yeah, it's very fun.
Do you get to be silly?
Yeah, it is challenging though. There are challenges you have to overcome. There are things you have to learn through the process.
So if they're crying and saying they don't want to be there, what do you do?
Well, you just have to comfort them, and you just have to distract them in some way. Like you have to, like, make a joke with them or try to talk with them about maybe what they ate for breakfast, that morning, or what their favorite TV show is, or something like that. So.
Mm-hmm. And then they stop crying and maybe learn to do some things. Is that what happens?
Yeah, yeah. And then we get to the actual teaching part of it, the part where we really teach them how to swim. So.
Okay. And so you're a competitive swimmer now. So tell us what you've been doing in that arena, and also I think you've been winning a bunch of stand-up paddle. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I swim for Nashville Aquatic Club, which is a competitive team, and we're ranked pretty high in the Southeast, and we have a lot of really good swimmers on our team, and it just the teamwork and the swimming and the athleticism of it is really fun, and it's also challenging. That's also challenging, and yeah, so it's just a interesting thing to do. Being a swimmer, and as far as stand-up paddling goes, I've been winning a lot of races in that, and I hope
Haven't
to
you
keep
been beating your
improving.
dad?
Not yet, not yet,
It's coming.
not yet.
So Maya, glad that you're here, and tell us a little bit about you and growing up, learning to swim and enjoying it, and what your plan is with the swim school.
Well, I really think that I was blessed being able to grow up in a family of swim, because it's really fun working with all the kids, and I really want to take over the swim program when I get old enough, because I think that would be a really good job.
You want to take over the business part, like your mom does so much of the business part.
She wants
I
to
want
be
to take
Nana.
over the teaching part.
Oh, the teaching part.
Mm-hmm.
And like your dad and your grandma, and you started the whole thing. Yeah, wow. And then what is it like for you to right now be in the water with other kids? Because you're how old now, did we say?
I'm 10 and I'll be 11 next week.
Okay, 11 next week, so let's say 11. So you're with other kids, and are you with babies, or?
Yes, and I usually work with the babies, and I also demonstrate for the older kids, like how to swim down the pool or do sleeping fish.
She demonstrates a lot of stroke technique for the older kids.
Oh, I see. So she actually does it. This is what you do, and then they go, "Wow, that kid can do it. I certainly should be able to do it, right?"
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And so, are you doing competitive swimming also, like your brother?
I'm doing it in the summer. I used to do it like all year round, but I'm now just doing it in the summer, which is fun. So.
And you enjoy being. What other strokes are you doing?
Well, in swimming, you do all the strokes.
Which is?
Freestyle, backstroke, breaststroke, and butterfly.
And butterfly too, wow. Okay, so all of that. Yeah, so you know all the strokes. You brought up with a pool and brought up with multi-generations showing you, and your mama is the business person too, and is in the pool. And then your brother's doing fantastic, so wow, what a rich legacy you have. It's amazing.
Yes,
Yeah.
I really think it is.
Yeah, it sounds like you really even appreciate it. Yeah. Oh. So what is your take with your children? Do you feel that they just naturally got into it, or did you guys kind of have to like, hey, you need to learn this, or?
Well, with these two being our offspring, they didn't have a choice. So actually, as soon as the umbilical cord came off, they were in the water.
Whoa.
So from, less than a month old, and that's not an exaggeration, we were putting them in the water. Now, we weren't taking them and dunking them, we weren't doing all that, but they were in the water. They were getting used to the feel of the water. And so they have known nothing else, But also with that being said, just because they are our offspring, mine and Brendan's, and their Sweetman's, it was never any different for them as far as being in the classes and being in the lessons. If anything, it may have been a little bit harder because their last name was Sweetman. And because the pool was in their backyard, they were in lessons all summer. And yeah, and so they got a lot of lessons. They still had to do it even when they didn't want to. I was kicked out of the backyard if they would get upset. I mean, it was, there were no exceptions to the rule just because, they are.
They were the Sweetmans.
Right.
They had no special treatment. And they had to learn like everybody else.
They did, but because they were in the water so much, they progressed very quickly. Maya passed. She's one of the youngest kids ever, I think, in the program to pass the TREAD. The TREAD is for advanced students who've learned all their strokes, and they have to get in and they do this incredible life-saving test where they bob up and down and then float on their back and then bob up and down and float on their back. It's really intense.
And we get splashed,
They get
like
splashed.
it's an ocean
It's
all the time.
It's more advanced survival, for the older kids. But she was about 4 when she passed that.
I think it was 3.
Wow.
Yeah, she was really young. Yeah, and then Rangi, being in the pool has led him to his love of, competitive swim. So, and has really gained a very, very amazing work ethic because of that.
That's also where I learned all the strokes that I use. We learned through Sweetman swimmers. I learned all the strokes that I use in the pool today. So, yeah.
And so it's not just the regular crawl stroke, it's the butterfly, it's all the strokes. And you both have that in there. That is marvelous. Wow. Well, I think it's about time for us to call our show to an end. There are 2 parts of this show. And thank you all and your whole family for being on Transitions. And that's Transitions, Body, Mind, Spirit. Thank you. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yay.
Yeah,